As long as it's not Sandra.
All right. It sounded like it.
Yeah, it did.
At first. Hello, everyone. This is John and Constance with JCX Fishing. Tonight's guest is Sam Jones. He is a great guy. He owns South Mountain Media, and he also takes care of pro staff for some companies as well as himself. So we're going to bring Sam in here and let him talk a little bit about being on pro staff and what it means, and some of the things that you might want to hear and you may not want to hear.
It's going to have tips and tricks.
Hello, Sam.
What's going on?
Not much. How about you, Sam? This is my wife, Constance.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you as well. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did.
I was drunk.
Let the fans know that you may say some things that some people don't want to hear, including myself. But you're not going to sugarcoat anything. You're going to be completely honest with everybody and go from there.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Open book.
Yeah.
And keep
right.
it on.
There you go. And if you guys have any questions for Sam, please shoot them, because not shoot Sam, but shoot out the questions, because that's what he's here for.
You nervous today?
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You know. But
too much coffee.
Sam, can you? What's that?
Probably.
Too much coffee.
Yeah.
Not enough.
Not enough. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Frank Palafrone says you're the man.
Yeah.
So
Mr. Provolone right there.
There you go.
I love it.
So can you start and just by a little bit about yourself or in the fishing industry? I mean, I know you're a big kayak fisherman, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing the kayak thing for a little while now, but I started in the bass boats.
Okay.
I've fished my whole life, like I think probably most people watching this show have. I got into bass fishing pretty big when I was 14, and I started tournament fishing by 16. A lot of co-angler stuff, local club stuff, that sort of thing. From there, got into doing some of my own stuff in the boat, and then I was in an accident. Had some back issues after that. So got out of the game for a little bit, and then got back into it with the kayak scene. And I kind of found my little home and my place in the fishing world, and I love it. And that's kind of where I've been since. But I've done a little bit of everything in the fishing industry, in the outdoor industry, from pro staffing, to managing pro staffs, marketing and advertising for companies, graphic design, everything from starting a business to, running it on a daily basis. So I've got a decent amount of knowledge when it comes to this whole pro staff topic.
All right. Nice. And I'd like to say congratulations. This is your two-year anniversary for South Mountain Media.
It is, yeah. What was a little side gig, a little side hustle, became my basically my lifestyle. I love it. It is a busy time of year for me right now. Probably the busiest time with Black Friday coming up, preparations for next year. Speaking of pro staff, a lot of people are putting in applications this time of year. Companies are trying to figure out what they're going to do with those people for the following year. So it's just a crazy busy time in this space, busier than it is even in the heart of the fishing season. And I fished like 30 plus tournaments last year. So that's a lot of tournaments, and this is even crazier right now.
Yeah. Plus you're a husband and a father and a business owner. And so basically you sleep when, the 3 hours between 1 and 3 in the morning.
What sleep? What sleep? No, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we have a comment from Kevin James. He says he has some questions.
What's up, Big Kev?
Yeah. And actually we do, and Jim Sprone says hello. So wicked weight love there. And Justin Dahl has a question.
Says, what's Sam's definition and difference between pro staff and field staff?
Yeah, man. So vocabulary, terminology, all those things are a hot topic when it comes to the conversation of pro staffing. Ambassador programs, affiliate programs, all of these things are terms. They get very used very loosely. They have different definitions. I've been doing this, like I said, a long time, and I can tell you that everyone has a different opinion about it and has a different definition of it. From the top brands that that have been around forever to the guys just getting started and everywhere in between, everyone has a different version of that. And it's actually probably created some of the problem that we have with some stereotypes and some just negatives that are associated with pro staffing. So specifically to answer your question the best that I can, the difference between pro staff and field staff, they're really the same thing. So often pro staff is confused with being a professional angler. There are very few professional anglers in the world that can really fit that definition. Pro staff is a promotional team. Field staff is generally the same thing. Where these terms start to get thrown around and used differently is really kind of almost how the individual, the staffer, is valued within that program. So, you'll have companies that take various models and approaches to building a pro staff program. You have the mega staffs, which we can talk about. You have the companies that are very small, little elite group, very personable, one-on-one. And then you have all the other variations in between. But the tiered model is one where we see, maybe you have an ambassador at one level, and the next level is field, and then the next level is pro staff, and then the next level is affiliate or something along those lines. And they get blurred. You could see a company say, pro staff is the bottom tier and field staff is the second tier, and pro team is the third tier. So you got to have the conversation or look into and read into what it is the company that you're talking to or looking to talk to, how they're communicating those things. That's more important than anything.
Right. Okay.
All right. It's a good answer.
Yeah. All right. So, if I know you deal with a lot of companies, I've known you for a year or so, and we've had some discussions. A lot of people think, correct me if I'm wrong, is a pro staff is what can I get from you? It's like, okay, can I get a discount? Can I get this? Can I get that? What's some of the best ways a person can go about trying to get on a pro staff, field staff, or whatever?
Well, I think before you even try to get on a pro staff, you need to understand why you want to be on that pro staff. You need to have an understanding of what it is you're looking to get from that relationship. It's funny. I've had conversations with a lot of anglers and a lot of content creators in the industry. Some just getting started, some who have been doing it for a while. And I often will ask you, what makes you want to pro staff, or what makes you want to be an affiliate, or whatever that is? And sometimes I'm asking that just as a friend, having a conversation with a fellow angler. And sometimes I'm asking that as a pro staff manager or director or marketing person for a company. And it's funny, most people don't have an answer to that. I mean, the obvious answer for some people is they are looking for a discount. But when you ask people that question, why do you want to pro staff? What drives you to do that? Most have no real reason. And it's just simply because it's the thing to do. there's this weird thing that happens in competitive bass fishing. An angler finds the sport through whatever means. Maybe it's this show, maybe it's Bassmaster on, well, it used to be ESPN, it's Fox now. Whatever way they find the sport of bass fishing, they get into it. And because you see all these logos running around on jerseys and boats and trucks and trailers and that sort of thing, there's just this natural thing that happens where you're like, oh, to be validated as a fisherman, I have to have a sponsor. I have to have a pro staff deal. And so people just kind of do it without ever even really thinking about why they want to do it. So that's step number one, is like, why do you want this? Why do you want to be a part of it? Is it because A, you just want a discount? Well, if that's the case, then you're not doing it for the right reason. Is it because you love this product or this brand, and you want to support them? Now we're on the right track, you know. And at that point, you shouldn't really care whether it's a 10% discount or a 50% discount, because you're not pro staffing because it's going to be some type of, you know, financial gain for you or make a big difference in your wallet when you go to check out. You're pro staffing because you believe in a brand and a product, and you want to share that with the people in your community, in your network. So yeah, I mean, hopefully that answers your question or gives some direction to it.
Yeah, it does. I appreciate it. I had a question while you were talking, and I'm like, okay, I got to remember that one, and I forgot, and I apologize. But so if I was to apply, I mean, I know you and I've had some conversation on this, and one of the things that you have to be conscious of, and I found myself in this position as well, is duplication. You know, you don't want to try to sign up for 2 or 3 jig companies, or 2 or 3 this company, or 2 or 3 the same. And
Right.
And I've learned through our conversation before that because I had a small company that I was repping for, and I applied for a bigger company, and this was a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and we had the conversation. You're like, well, you already have such and such a company. I'm like, yeah, but I don't really think it interferes with. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's another big issue, you know, we see in the marketing pro staffing realm. And it's a small community. The fishing community, we think, is this big, huge thing. But in reality, it's not. It's a very small, tight-knit thing. And owners of these companies and bait companies and that sort of thing, they talk. There's little cliques within the industry. And a lot of times, you know, the things we talk about are these conflicting issues with people who are newer to pro staffing or newer to, you know, this part of the game, where you'll see a guy who, you know, is representing Zoom, and he's also representing Yum. Well, while there's plenty of room in the space for everyone to play, you know, at the same time, though, companies are not going to want you to represent a direct competitor of their brand. More importantly, though, you shouldn't want to do that, because if you're representing both brands, that's confusing to your audience. That's confusing to the people who follow you, because you're, on one hand, you're talking about how Zoom has the best plastics in the game, and on the other post, you're talking about how Yum does. And of course, like, we all have, like, I work with Biz Baits, though most of my plastics are Biz Baits, and most of the time I'm throwing Biz Baits. Of course, I have other stuff in my bag. And I'm not sitting here saying you can't say that you caught them on this or that, but if you're working with a company and they are partnering with you, you have a responsibility to them and yourself and your followers to stay true to that. And it gets very difficult to stay true to that when you're, representing multiple brands. I can't think of any other industry where you would do that. If you were a race car driver, you wouldn't be driving a Ford car around the track with a Chevy sponsorship. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's weird that happens in fishing. I don't quite understand it. But there are some areas where, a newer thing in the industry is companies being more than just one specific category, really taking on multiple categories. You look at a company like 6 Sense, or maybe even like a Fitzgerald or something like that, where they start out as one thing and then they get into other categories, and so that's making it a little bit more difficult in that space as well right now. But yeah, I mean, anytime you can avoid those conflicts, you should. But I'd be curious if anybody has any questions about that.
Yeah. So, I mean,
It's not a question about that, but
we do have a question.
All right.
all right. Tom asks, how do you feel about applying through NPS? I have no idea what that is.
It's the
NPS, National Pro Staff.
Pro Staff.
Yeah,
I
National
could've
Pro
guessed
Staff.
that. I thought about it.
Which is basically a social platform in which you can find companies who are looking for pro staff. They're a middleman.
I see.
There's nothing wrong with NPS. It's a middleman. It's a way for companies to market to a group of anglers, and potentially get their sponsorship. Now, a big appeal for the anglers is, one, it's easier for them to find companies, and two, for a company and for the angler, kind of lets you know they're a little bit more serious about it, because you have to pay to play, if you will.
Okay.
And I don't remember the specifics of NPS. It's been a long time since I've been on there personally. But I think you have to have a subscription to be on there. And then I think you also have to pay for the application process. So I don't have any major issues with it by any means. It's a valuable source, I guess. Again, I like to compare things to other industries. So there are similar websites for sports teams and other individuals to go out and find corporate sponsorships. You pay X amount for a subscription, and then it gives you access to companies who offer corporate sponsorships, and their contact info. Very similar to how you would use like a LinkedIn, so yeah, no issues with it.
Okay. Kevin Jane says $25 per application.
Yeah. So so on the other end of that, right? So that tells me if I'm a company using NPS to promote that I'm asking for pro staff, if you're willing to pay $25 to apply, you're probably a little bit more serious than the average guy who is just going to a website and clicking a pro staff link.
Right.
So I guess I would say that is one advantage to it, is it can kind of get your foot in the door as far as that goes, but you still got to come with some goodies to get accepted in
Right,
some
you have
cases.
you have like some skin in the game, instead of like throwing out a bunch of applications and just hoping for the best. You actually have to pour some effort into it, really. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
And Jeff says, I'm trying to get my 13-year-old son on pro staffs. Can you give him some pointers?
All right, Jeff. So this is where I might hurt your feelings. Don't get your 13-year-old on a pro staff. I don't know why you would. I can see some potential benefits to starting young with a company and stuff like that, but I actually I don't love the younger pro staff stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with it per se, but your focus right now for your 13-year-old should be making them the best angler that they can be and making them the best creator that they can be, content creator that they can be. And focus on them trying brands and finding what works for them and what they build confidence in. If they already have that and the company offers a junior pro staff, then, maybe consider it. But that's one that I'm not really big on. At 13 years old, 14, 15 years old, I would rather see you focused on learning how to locate fish, map study, breaking down new water. And then the other side of the business, if you've got the fishing side down, is learning how to become a content creator. Because that's really what's going to establish you in the fishing industry going forward. So work on creating a following and a social media. I'm also not big on kids being on social media. But if you're okay with that, then, go ahead and start building them a following that they can carry with them, until they get into high school and college and really can start working on financial sponsorships and that sort of thing.
All right, so here's another one. What's one bit of advice you would give someone to stand out amongst I got it all hidden here.
Yeah.
The slew of applicants. Sorry.
Great. I was waiting for this question, and I'm so glad Frank is the one to ask it. This is one of my favorite parts of this topic. Okay, so here's what not to do. I have seen thousands of applications in my time of doing this, and I can tell you that 98% of them are the exact same, just in a different version, right? Like they're the same context, just written differently. And it goes a little something like this. My name is Sam Jones, and I love fishing. I've been fishing my whole life, and I would love to work with your brand. Version 2, my name is Sam Jones. I love fishing. I fish tournaments every day of the week, and I've won X amount of tournaments in my local club. That's it. And some of you listening to this are probably like, yeah, I've written that in a pro staff application. So here's why that's wrong to do that. One, if you're applying for a pro staff position, I'm going to assume you love bass fishing. You don't have to tell me that. Two, if you're applying for a pro staff position, you are likely either A, content creator, or B, a tournament angler. So I really don't need to know that. You don't need to spend time telling me that. Three, if you're applying for my pro staff, I'm going to also assume you love my baits or my rods or whatever. Because why else would you want to promote a company if you don't love what they're doing, if you don't love the product that they're putting out or the service? Because we're talking about pro staffing, right? We're not talking about sponsorship. And that's another where lines get blurred a lot. Sponsorship is a financial investment. A company is giving you a financial investment in return for your marketing efforts. This is pro staffing, promotional staffing. You're usually talking about a discount on average, somewhere between 10 to 30% in most categories. Some cases you could be talking larger than that, or even some free product. Or a hybrid X amount of free product and a discount. Okay. So we're not talking about financial sponsorships here, but it's still important for you in that email to set yourself apart from the 98% of people who are going to write that same email. Couple ways to do that. One, start off by telling the company how you can help them. Like that's the big one. Two, have an angler resume, have a media deck, have a website, have some visual representation to show a potential sponsor what you have to offer. Another big thing is don't start your communication through an email in a ProStaff app. If the first time you've interacted with somebody within that brand is via an application, you're not likely to get anything more than a discount. Now, let's be honest. There are companies who are going to accept your application without ever reading it. But we're talking about, I think what Frank's talking about is getting to the next level, right? Getting those better partnerships, those better deals, and eventually sponsorship. So, that's where you start. Like, tell me how you can help my brand, what you bring to the table, and then show me in some way, in a media deck, an angler resume, a website, show me some content you've created. Like, send me some of your best pictures, send me some of your best videos. But you really should start before all that with interacting with the brand, tagging them on social media, sending them content for them to use on social media, finding other pro staffers who you know or have a connection with and talking to them about the brand, and getting involved with that brand long before you ever apply for them. In the ideal situation. The other big thing is knowing who you are and what you have to offer and exploiting the hell out of it. So Frank asked the question. John, you're familiar with Frank, right?
Yes.
What's his thing? What's Frank's thing?
You stumped me.
What's he start every video with? Woo!
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Ric Flair.
he pretty much branded himself that way.
Branded himself in that way, exactly. He has his thing, right? He's got that loud, woo that he starts the video out with, and he comes high energy the whole time. Boom, boom, boom. He's hitting you with that high energy. Whatever it is, he could be selling, the worst thing on earth, and he's going to bring it like, you know what I mean? It could be sardines from a can that are spoiled, and he's going to bring like huge energy to that and get you excited about spoiled sardines. That's his thing. Fluke Master. Everybody knows Fluke Master, right? What's his thing? Calm, cool, collected. Mr. Jensen. He's going to teach you. You're going to learn something from him. He's going to be family friendly. He's soft spoken. You're going to learn something. Chad Hoover of Kayak Bass Fishing. What's his thing? I do like sardines. What's Chad's thing, right? Not right. He's got that weird little look he does. Michael Iconelli, big, loud, breakdancing on the boat, right? So you have to find what your thing is and exploit it. And this goes beyond applying and how to, apply. This is about like how to create a brand for yourself, right? And when you do that and you market that, then that's something that you bring to the table to that sponsor, because that is something that is recognizable and something that people cling to. So figure out what that is for you, and use it, exploit it.
Okay. So that was a lot said just in that.
Sorry.
I mean, that's worth the whole show right there. I might have to charge people for this section.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. And we also found out Frank liked sardines.
Hey.
That's important.
I didn't know there was a way to spoil sardines, but because I smelled spoiled coming straight out of the container.
That's what I'm saying. It would have to be so bad, you know, to experience some spoiled sardines. But even Frank could sell that to you.
Yeah, I've had them a couple times, and I've had to put like a spicy mustard on them just to get the taste and the smell away. So
I can't stand the smell or the sight of them.
Well,
My grandfather grew up watching my grandfather eat those, and oof, would never touch one.
Yeah. So I'm a fresh angler, or I shouldn't say fresh. I've been fishing tournaments for 20 years or so, and I decided I wanted to try be on a pro staff. I watched watched this video, and I'm like, okay, I've got to do this, have to do that, have to do that, and then what? You know, do I just mass exodus a whole bunch, or shoot out mass bunch of emails, or should I just concentrate on stuff that I use, stuff that I like? You know,
I think again, it goes back to why do you want to be on a pro staff? You know, is it, and this where you have to be honest with yourself. Is it that I think a lot of times, just talking about the psychology of it, I think a lot of times it's just people feel like that's the next step. Like, okay, I'm a fisherman. Okay, I'm a bass fisherman now. Okay, now I'm fishing club events. I'm a tournament angler. Tournament anglers are sponsored. I got to get sponsored. Really, I guess what I would say is stop focusing on getting sponsored. Focus on becoming a better angler. Focus on becoming a content creator. Focus on that. And then through that journey, you are going to find brands that you feel good about, brands that you want to promote, brands that you develop friendships with and relationships with. Those are the companies you should pro staff for. Now, that's for the average guy. That's for the average guy, right? You know, the average content creator, the average tournament angler. Now, if you're going like you're wanting to go semi-pro or pro, and you need those partnerships to help you support your journey towards being, you know, a full-time angler or a part-time serious angler. You know, you want to go fish the opens, you want to fish MLF, you want to travel and fish the full KBF trail or Hobie trail or the new Bass trail, those kinds of things where you've got serious financial, you know, impacts between travel and entry fee and you're, you know, you're buying a lot of tackle, not just a few things here and there at Bass Pro Shops, but you're buying, you know, 5 and 6 of one bait to make sure you've got enough to get you through that season or that tournament. That's when the conversation starts to turn. Now we're not talking about, I love this brand and I want to support them at a small level. Now we're talking about, I need financial support or at least product in order for me to do what I do. And I think a lot of times you got a lot of the average guys who think they need to be there, but they have real no intentions of getting there, or they're at least not there yet, but they're trying to go out and get, you know, a ton of product and a ton of you know, money, but they're not there. So know where you're at. But when you get to that point where you want to go after money and you want to get those larger deals, you have to understand what you're worth. You have to understand your value. And oftentimes, unfortunately, the guys who are asking for all this stuff are way overvaluing themselves. And then the funny thing is, some of the best content creators and the best potential candidates for sponsorship never even ask for it because they undervalue themselves. So it's a weird dynamic there. You often see the guys you would be willing to go above and beyond for and potentially give product deals to or money deals to are usually ones not asking for it. That's the funny thing. They're the ones, you know, not asking for it. It's typically the guys who aren't there yet, but they have a desire and a passion to get there, which is a good thing. But you've got to match that with some skill set, right? And a following. And that's kind of where that starts, is developing an audience.
All right. So basically, you get your social media game up there, you get your brand up there, and you go to a company and you say, I'd like you to entertain the thought of me promoting your business. Here's what I can do for you. Here's what I have. Here's some of the stats from the last couple of years or last 6 months or whatever. Don't go out there and ask to be on pro staff. Go out there and show them what you can do and how you can do it.
Yeah. Understand marketing. When you get to a point where you're asking for money and large product deals, you are now talking about a business partnership. Okay. We're not talking about, you being a loyal customer who wants to represent my brand with a logo, and, make a post here and there. We're talking about someone who is actually going to be the face of my business, right? Or one of the faces of my business. And so you need to understand some basic marketing principles, some basic marketing lingo. You need to understand how social media works at a basic level. And I'm not talking about how to post and how to tag and how to hashtag. I'm actually talking about how the algorithm works, how traffic is driven from social media to websites and vice versa, touch points, all of these things. You need to have a basic understanding of that. Because if you can go into a conversation with a company and be able to talk like that, talk about marketing, use the right lingo, have a basic understanding of it, you're already well above everyone else. Because most guys, they go into that conversation with, I win a lot of tournaments. I can fish. That's not what it's about. It doesn't matter. I don't care how many tournaments you win. Unless you're winning blue trophies or MLF tournaments, it doesn't, MLF, the Bass Pro Tour, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because that isn't what is driving traffic. Of course, it drives some. When you win your local championship, it will drive some. If you have a connection with the people in your community. If you don't have a connection with your people in your community, you're just another angler who won another tournament. I don't have any buy-in. I'm not coming up to you after the tournament to say, hey, Joe, what rod and reel did you use and what line and what bait? I'm not doing. No one does that. No one does that. Like, what happens after a tournament? Everyone goes home to their wife and their kids, or they go home to their buddies, or they go home to sleep or whatever. I've fished a lot of tournaments. I have never had someone come up to me afterwards and ask me a bunch of questions. But they do on social media the next day after they've gone home to their family, after they've gone home and got some rest, after they've had a moment to think about it. I get tons of questions. And I'm not saying nobody goes up afterwards, but it's rare. That's not where you market brands. So, going back, that was a long way to say, like, your tournament performance is not what's important. Your ability to connect with people, both in person and online through digital means, and drive traffic to brands is what's important. So yeah, that's what you got to be talking about. That's what you got to be talking about. How are you doing that? How have you done that? How will you do that? And find as many touch points as you possibly can. Having an Instagram is one thing. Having a Facebook is one thing. Having an Instagram, a Facebook, a blog, doing podcasts, doing go lives. Okay, now we have something substantial, right? Now I can talk to you about a potential, product deal or money deal.
Excellent. I don't know, but my head's about to bust.
I told you this is a very interesting topic.
Right.
And there's going to be people that will disagree with some of the things that I'm saying based off of their experiences. And that's okay too. But there's this is one of those things, one of those topics in the industry that just has so many layers and so many different people bringing in different pieces of information. Unfortunately, a lot of it though comes from a place, new anglers are talking to each other, right? It's rare that you see someone who's been in the industry a long time coming down and talking to the newer anglers. Now, social media has made that somewhat easier. Podcasts, Bass University, those sorts of things. But you just don't get a huge intermix there. It's just kind of like you kind of level up. And so a lot of times people who are newer to the industry, or at least the business side of it, which I consider pro staffing and stuff like that, they get a lot of information from other people who are newer to the industry. And it often doesn't come with some of the best advice.
Yeah. Excellent. Do you have anything you want to ask?
Besides my usual question?
Yeah. Get ready. This is going to be the hardest question you answer tonight.
It's a real stumper.
Okay. I'm ready.
All right. So, what is your favorite homemade cookie?
Oatmeal raisin.
Oh, really? See, a lot of people are oatmeal raisin fans. I can't believe it.
I like my favorite cookie is white chocolate macadamia.
Oh yeah,
that's my favorite cookie. But like, it's rare to have a good one homemade. Like usually the best ones come from like, a restaurant like McAllister's or something. I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, favorite.
I must say I've never made the macadamia white chocolate chip. I've made like macadamia bark with lemon heads and stuff like that. That's really good. But I've never made one of those style cookies. I don't have any requests for them, but
yeah, that's something you get from a bakery or a restaurant, but that's not something that often like you'd go into grandma's house and she would have those on the counter. It's chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin. Yeah. So
yeah. Because I don't know if you know, but that's my side business is baking. So that's why I asked.
Great comment right here.
Sound advice as we get to hundreds of anglers who merely want free stuff, not said with disrespect or disregard. Each piece is important. Thank you for sharing your experience. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Eric. That's a good one.
And you know what's interesting? We always want the best deals and discounts from our buddies and our friends and the people that we like actually value. But those are the people we should be paying full price. Those are the people we should be asking for less discounts from, right? Like, we should be supporting those people. And it's often the opposite. We don't shop local because we don't want to pay the price. We go to Amazon, we go to Walmart, whatever, even though our friend may be offering the same product, a better product at a reasonable price. We'll still, go somewhere else, or we'll ask them for huge discounts. Like, help your friends out, like pay full price, give them a tip on top of full price. Don't ask them for free stuff. They're trying to make it too. And another thing, so anglers created the monster that is pro staffing now. companies took advantage of it. And this is where we've seen like mega pro staffs and stuff like that. But another thing, like a lot of companies you see on social media that look like they're these big, huge businesses because of their presence on social media are actually just a very, very small business. One or two guys at most working out of their garage or their shop. I think a lot of times we look at a small company and we think of like, you know, a Zoom, like this big, huge business. It's not. It's not that, you know. And so I think the natural thing to think is, oh, well, it's this big, huge business. They can afford to give me some product. They can afford to give me a bigger discount. It's really not it. They're barely making it. And they're giving probably way more away than they should. They're giving a bigger discount than they should to more people than they should, just because that's kind of the nature of the business now. So try and remember that, especially those new small guys. Like they don't have $10,000 to wrap your boat or give you a bunch of free products. They may make $10,000 that year total before cost.
Yeah. Another thing that I've done with some of my partners, I call them partners. People call them sponsors, whatever. I like the term partners over sponsor because I feel like partnership gives me some ownership into what I'm doing.
I like
and,
that.
So one of the things I try to do, because I'm not a big name, I'm not Kevin Van Dam, Jordan Lee, you know, anyone else on those guys. But what I do, most of my companies that I partner with are smaller companies. No offense to any of them out there, and they all know, you know. But I try to get them in shops because their marketing budget is not as high as, say, Strike King, Yum, Zoom. You know, I don't know what their budgets are, but you know, I know the guy who pours plastics in his garage can't afford to travel a couple hundred miles to try to get baits in a shop all the time. And so that's where I feel like I come in, more or less a liaison between the maker or owner of the company and the small shops.
Yeah, if a part of the business model is to get product in the bait shops, the tackle shops, if that's part of the brand you're working with business model, absolutely. That's one of the best ways you can help them notice you. Okay, so the key there is notice you. That getting a product in a tackle shop isn't usually speaking the best way for you to help the bottom line of a business. Okay, because tackle shops usually get a steep discount on product. And so bait companies and rod companies, depending on their margins, may or may not make much off of that deal. But what it does is it gives you something tangible and it gives them something tangible. So pro staffing and social media marketing, for a lot of people that don't understand, and even for guys like me who live and sleep and breathe it, don't understand how to look at the analytics to know how an individual or group of individuals is actually impacting the business. It's very hard for them to value you in what you do in social media and what you do in content creation. But when you go into a shop and make a deal, there's a transaction there. That is something that's tangible. That's easy for me to see. I have an actual dollar value. They bought X amount in product. I now know you're worth more. Like it's easier for me to understand what you're bringing to the table. The downside to that, though, again, like I said, is usually the margins aren't there. You do more for a company by driving a lot of traffic to their website and getting purchases online for them than you do for most companies by getting them in bait shops. Now, again, certain products have larger margins, and so that may not be the case. Like a rod company, for example, is a great company to try and get into a shop. They have larger margins in their product, and people are more likely to buy a rod that they can pick up and fill than they are to go online and buy a rod they've never heard of, or they've just heard of once through a social media post. So kind of, again, this goes back to kind of understanding the business. But that's the hardest part as pro staffers, is getting companies to understand your value, when a lot of times these companies don't really know much about the back end as far as marketing and social media traffic and the analytics. So they don't have that understanding. And then two, the anglers often don't know how to talk about it or how to show it or prove it. And so that's where the big disconnect is. And that goes back to where guys often are overvaluing themselves or drastically undervaluing themselves.
Yeah.
So sorry, I keep bebopping in and out. I'm like picking a path on that.
Yeah. So one of the things, before I do go to try to put a product on the shelves of a storefront or anywhere, I have a conversation with sometimes it's the owner of the company, sometimes it's the maker, sometimes it's the middleman, and find out exactly if they want that, because some companies don't because of their margins. And
absolutely. And that's the thing, like, communication is key. A lot of times guys will get on a pro staff and then you never hear from them. They don't even tag you in their post. FYI, guys, most people don't even know how to tag properly. So learn that first. There's hashtagging and then there's tagging. There's tagging within your post, and then there's actually tagging the company, like when we're talking about Instagram, actually tagging them to where they're notified in the picture or the content. Yeah, I mean, the communication part is a big piece of it. Letting the person in charge of that pro staff or the brand manager or whatever know that you're actually out there doing something is key. And you can do that verbally. You can do that through an email, write up a report, quarterly report, if you will. This is what I did, and send it out. You can do it by communicating with them on social media. There's lots of ways, but most people don't have any interaction with anyone in the brand after they get on pro staff.
All right. So this is going to be our last question, because I want to wrap this up here pretty soon. So
we'll have to have you on again.
Sure. Anytime.
After Black Friday, though.
Yes, after Black Friday.
Oh, well, it just jumped. Let's see here. So Tom says, what happens when a pro staffer makes and designs baits?
When a pro staffer makes and design baits. So I'm going to assume you're saying you work for, or you're pro staffing for a bait company, and you too make baits. Is that what we're getting at? Like that potential conflict? Is that the question? I'm assuming. So I know there's a little bit of delay there, so I'll kind of wait to see if there's some confirmation on that. But
I believe that's what he's asking.
Well, so the first thing I would say is, again, I guess I would need to know, did you make baits prior to pro staffing, or did you decide to start making baits after pro staffing? So a couple things there. One, if you were already making the baits that the company you went after makes, like, so say you're pouring plastics and you pour a Senko style bait and a Beaver style bait, then why did you go pro staff for a company that makes a Senko and a Beaver style bait? Why would you spend your time marketing another brand when you could have marketed your own? That's an interesting thing. I would need to know more about that situation. But okay.
So he designs his own. So maybe
So yeah, I don't know that I understand the question fully, but like if you design your own baits, then you shouldn't pro staff for another company that designs baits, at least in that same category. Now, here's where the difference might be. If so, for example, Biz Baits, I'll use them. Biz Baits has a variety of plastics, but they don't deal in swim baits. So if I wanted to design and make swim baits, that wouldn't necessarily be a conflict or an issue. I could start my own company doing that. But yeah, I mean, just do
that you need.
Yeah, do your own thing, and that's fine. If you're selling it. Now, if you're not selling it or trying to market your own brand and you're just making baits that fill a void, or maybe the company you work for doesn't have a collar, nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've worked for companies that make jigs, and I've tied my own jigs because there's something specific that I want. That's not a problem. But I don't see why, if you were trying to build your own brand within that particular product category, you would want to go out and pro staff for another company who does the same thing. Right. And if you're not interested in building a brand, you just enjoy making baits, work with that company, talk to them like, hey, let me prototype some stuff for you. Let me make some stuff for you. And then work out some sort of agreement with them on the back end, what that looks like. Do you sell that prototype to them or whatever? But yeah, hopefully I got to the right part of that question. I'm not exactly sure where you're going with it. Sometimes it's hard to know via text, but yeah, that's what I would say, I guess.
All right.
That's good advice.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Sam, I want to thank you very much for coming on. I know it's been a little bit to try to hook up and get together between your schedule and me being ill and some other conflicts that we've had, but I greatly appreciate this. My head is blown right now. I know myself. I'm going to be watching this video a couple times. Maybe I'll log into someone else's account so it makes my numbers look a little better. But, there you go. So thank you very much. I'm going to let you go so you can get back to work. And I got to go
record another podcast.
There you go.
I was going to say, you got all the official equipment there with your...
Yeah. After this, I'm recording our third episode of the Indianapolis Knights podcast, the Indy Knights Roundtable, which is our kayak KFL team, the Indy Knights here in Indiana. So
we'll have to have you on again just to talk about the kayak fishing.
Yes.
We can do that. If you really want your mind blown, we can talk about social media.
We'll work on that. We're working on it.
I know.
You're going to have to segment that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
We'll do like a 5-part series.
There you go.
Right. Exactly.
All right, Sam. Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do. And I'm sure I know a couple of companies that we both work with. Very greatly appreciate you. So keep up the great work. And once again, congratulations on your 2-year anniversary.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving.
You
as well.
Take care.
Yep. Bye-bye. Wow. If you didn't get much out of that, I don't know what to say.
I'm like all in now.
And
I'm gonna do pro stuff.
I am. I'm definitely going to be watching this one again. He said some things that it didn't upset me, but it made me think. Mainly is
it's good.
Why do you want to be on the pro staff? Think about that first. Yeah. Then next is, what can you offer a person, whatever. And don't forget, just because you think somebody may be big, they may not be. They may not have the budget to throw out free baits. Offer to help. I mean, that's one of the things I do. With a couple of my companies, I offer to help them any way I can. I'll go up and I'll pour baits and stuff like that with them, give them some ideas, and shoot some color suggestions to them. But main thing is, what can you do for the company? The company, think of yourself as an employee of the company if you're going to be on a pro staff. You want a discount, you want free stuff, you want this, you want that, which is fine. So just be conscientious of what you're doing.
Amazing questions, everybody. That was a good one. You got a lot of nice, good, juicy questions out there.
And we will talk again. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you on next Monday.
Be safe.
Yes.